Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and no, I am not heading off to go hunting. This is my softball jersey. I'm just about ready to head out the door to go play a little softball. But I wanted to take a little bit of time out of my day right now to talk to you about this game. It is called Galactic Warlords. Galactic Warlords is a game for 2 to 4 people, in which each person is going to be embodying the role of a, well, galactic overlord, or warlord, I should say. A galactic warlord that is trying to, or vying for control over a galaxy, and you're going to be fighting against your opponents in an effort to do so. You are going to hire these different unscrupulous mercenaries. You can see a few of them on the box right there, that are going to assist you by leading your troops to take over different planets, fight the other people, but also you're going to be using other different abilities as well. You're going to assassinate other people's mercenaries, you're going to bombard planets, you're going to gain reputation, all kinds of things that, like, ultimately has kind of a hodgepodge of different aspects of different board games I've played that are kind of put together in a really, really cool theme that is a lot of fun. So let me show you how this is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you what I think. Alright, so this is Galactic Overlords, and a couple quick things. One, this is a prototype that I was sent, so you can kind of tell that the board isn't like a mounted board and things like that. Some of the cards that you'll see out there maybe have a little bit of a miscut to them, so just keep that in mind as I'm describing the game. However, like I said, the game plays exactly as how the game will play once it is published. The other thing is, it's a pretty big board. I seriously have to tell the people that, for these prototypes, man, or maybe I just need a taller tripod or something. But regardless, I apologize that it might be kind of tough to see some of the edges, and I'll try to work around that as I give you this gameplay overview. Alright, so I've gone ahead and just set up for 2 players. The game handles up to 4, and it is fun with all numbers. It's a great deal of fun. So each player will get one of these. It's just a player board. There's no special powers on them or anything like that. It has a very good, quick summary of how your turn goes. And these locations here are for where you're going to be placing your commandos, your little troops here. And like, I don't have the miniatures here. I just have these little standees. They work just fine, obviously. Your base means that the worker is available to be used. I shouldn't say worker. My rugged space marine here is available to be placed out on the board onto a planet and work on taking control of that. But there's this mission location. Sometimes you'll be using them on missions, and then there's this medical bay and the decon. Now, what this means is that you can see these little arrows that kind of point over there. As the game, there's an action at the end of your turn that, like, your commandos or space marines or whatever you want to call them, if they get hurt, they're in the medical bay, you'll be able to refresh them and get them back to your base. You can't ever get these guys killed. I mean, you can get them hurt, and you can get it sent to medical bay, but, they just will be taken off the board. And then the mission obviously has 2 steps. Once you use them on a mission, then they're going to the decon, and then they'll go to here. Alright, so pretty straightforward. As a matter of fact, you can probably see, to start with, you start with 2 in medical bay. I don't know, they're sick from space sickness or something, and then one's already on a mission, and so it'll take him 2 turns to get there. However, you can see that you do have 5 more that are in your reserve, and so you'll need to take actions that will actually get them into your base before they can be used. And that's really simple and really easy to do because you're going to be hiring mercenaries that basically bring these guys along. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. I just want to talk a little bit more about the board. You can see there is a scoring track that's going to go all the way around. That's pretty ubiquitous for these types of games. It's very important to mention that, fighting and taking over the planets, that's going to get you power and reputation and things like that. But your power, your points, are what's going to determine who wins the game. Over here, and I do apologize, that track's probably tough to see. This is the reputation track. As you take certain actions, you will gain reputation as, this big, powerful galactic overlord. And you will move up on the reputation track. And way up there in the red, there it says game end. That's one of the ways the game can end. if you if you can get to 12 there, that'll force the game to be over, and then you're going to total points and see who wins. Now there are several symbols on the reputation track. I apologize, you probably can't see those really clearly, but they give you little bonuses as you play the game. If you go, like this one right here, is a troop. So like when you gain a reputation, you're going to gain a troop. The next one gains an action to move your troops out onto the board. Things like that. You just automatically gain those as you gain reputation, and so you can kind of use those things to chain to other actions as you're playing, because you immediately get those rewards. Now there are these little spots there. Those are little cardboard tokens that are randomly placed in those spots that are also bonuses. Like this one is the bombard action. So like you can blow up a planet. Well, you can't technically blow up the planet, but you can bomb the heck out of the commandos that are there and kill one. Well, I guess not kill one. Send him to sickbay. And you're going to automatically get that action when you gain one to your reputation. And those are randomly placed at the beginning of the game. Alright, so a couple other quick things over here. You have your mercenary market. As you play the game, you'll be grabbing new mercenaries to be to hire and use for your plots in taking over these planets. There is this. This is a support deck. The support deck has special, like these icons, they have icons on them, and the icons will give you a special action that you can use if you have that card in your hand. You do get one in your hand, and like this is, obviously you can probably guess from the icon, this is the ability to place troops out on the board if you have that particular card. There aren't a lot of these because they do tend to get used up pretty quickly, and you just shuffle them back in after they get used. Each person will also get a mission, and missions will just basically tell you, what, or like operation, I should say. Mission is actions. I'm getting ahead of myself, but operation. So this says have 5 commandos deployed in a sector. Sectors are these areas that have 2 planets in them. So if you ever have 5 of those dudes in one of those sectors, you can turn this card over and immediately gain the bonuses that are here. Like you can, like in this case, you can gain like a point for having succeeded, or you can gain a reputation, and you can just pick one of those and take it. But if at the end of the game you still have this going on, you're going to get a bonus of 2 points for doing so. Okay, pretty straightforward. You're also able, as the game progresses, to draw more of these cards, and so you can have several of these that you'll be scoring. Like here's one: control 5 planets from different factions. That's the same one, but here, that's the same one here. Let me grab a new one. Gosh, it must be right at the top. All right, so here, like having control of these sectors and things like that. So, all right, so that's what those particular cards are. Now, the last little thing before I show you how a turn works, and is this. You can see there's all these markers and there's all these little flags there. Those represent the different types of planets. Those different flags are on those planets. Whenever you have a war, if you have a combat between your troops and somebody else's troops on that planet, no matter what happens, whether the attacker or the defender wins, you're going to reduce these down by 1 each time, because that's the planet devastation track. Basically, you're laying waste to the entire planet, and you're making that planet worth less. I might be saying, well, that's just one planet, but it's kind of like the thought of the planets as a whole, the green planets as a whole, because there's going to be more. There's 2 out there. Well, technically there can't. I should explain something real quickly. But as you destroy the green planets as a whole are going to be worth less to control at the end. Now, I mentioned there's 2 out there that you can see. You can see 2 red. You do make sure that when you put out these planets, there are 2 of each color available. Now, the thing is that if you have 2 of each color, then you actually randomize the rest of them. So you could just end up with 2, but in most cases you're going to have more than 2 of each planet. And those, as you can see, are random. Now you might see these are face down. The reason they're face down is because they haven't been reconned yet, which is an action you can take on your turn. But once again, getting a little bit ahead of myself, let's go ahead and show you how a turn works. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do on your turn, and this isn't going to happen in the very first turn, is that if you have a troop out on a planet somewhere controlling it, you have the option of recalling one troop. If you recall a troop, you just take it and put it back into your base, and so then they're available to be used and to be deployed on that turn. So you don't have to do that. It's just an option that you have that's available to you. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to play a mercenary. Now each person gets 5 mercenary cards dealt to them at the beginning of the game. They discard 2 and they put them back in that giant deck that's over there, and then you shuffle up that deck and then you make available the mercenaries that are available in the market. You might be able to, so each of these people has like a type of a faction that they're aligned to, and you notice those are the same colors as the planets. I will talk about that in just a moment. And then they have special powers that you get to use when you activate them. This guy has 2 of the same, but so these are the actions that are placing this little circle here that places units, deploying units out onto the planets that are there. When you pick one, you're gonna place them on the board in front of you. Now I do apologize, I don't have a lot of room to show you, so I might be co-opting some of the board here to show you this. But you'll notice that there are these 2 circles on either side of the mercenaries, and you can notice that, like, if you have something like this, it kind of matches up. That's important. Now you don't have to play when you're playing when you start playing mercenaries down one after the other. You don't have to place these like this. However, you can gain special bonus actions if you do. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you can somehow figure out the puzzle of making that happen, great, but not necessarily needed to win the game, so to speak. So let's go ahead and pick, I like this guy, Sixth Ash, the Count. We're going to go ahead and place that person's down. Once again, you would normally place this underneath your player board, but like I said, I'm running out of room here. So we place our mercenary down. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the bottom left and see how many troops that he allows me to bring into play. It is 2, so I'm going to take 2 of these guys and I'm going to place them in my base. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the actions that I have available to me. So I have a deploy action. A deploy action is simply that. You're going to be deploying troops. You can deploy up to 3 troops that you have available. In this case, I only have 2. And you get to place them out on a planet. Now, normally what happens if you place them out on a planet, you have to place them in a planet that is adjacent to one that you're already on. At the very beginning of the game, you're not going to be adjacent to anything because you don't have any troops out there. And theoretically, that could happen later on in the game. Not likely, but if that is the case, you get to place them anywhere you want. So I'm going to go ahead and just place them on this blue planet. Now, later on, adjacent would mean either the one in the same sector as I am, or a planet that is next to me, attached by one of these green lines. So I could place them over here, 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 here. So you can kind of see placing them in the core gives you a lot of access, a lot of maneuverability, a lot of availability to different places that you can go ahead and put them on. So that's the deploy action. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I will say that if there are troops on there, you do have a situation where you're going to have a combat, and I'll talk about combat here in just a brief moment. Now, if I had another card already down, so let's say I had Rough Wreck down like this, and I place this down, and these 2 are connected. Now, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're the same color or not. I have the option, if I have one available, I can place my unit right there in between that, and he is now guarding those mercenaries. Now that's a very important thing because of the fact that there are, and you can kind of see this gun there that those 2 have created, there are like mercenary action and actions that are on mercenaries that are like assassination attacks. Here, I'll even show you one right here on this mercenary. For Act A, the artist. So he's got that little gun. That's an assassination action. If you use that action, what you can do is you can kill somebody's mercenaries. So you can just, blam, they're dead, they're gone. But if there's a guard on there, they have to target the guard first. And the guard would be then sent to the sick bay if it was targeted. So that's why you would place them. Now also, placing them on those locations, you are able to take those guards off later, especially, I mean, you can remove them at any time, like, as an action to, like, to recall or what have you. But a lot of times what's going to happen is that in combats, you can remove a unit like that, call and support them, as long as, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, I apologize, but let's say this combat was occurring over here, where that red planet is, and I could remove this, and I could place that because of the red, because this guy has a red flag, and this guy has this red action. I remove it, and I get the special action that's on there. But I'll talk about that when I get further into the combat here in just a brief moment. So that is the deploy action. Now let me just grab some mercenary cards so I can just kind of show you the other actions that are available. Now I've already talked about the assassinate action, so that is pretty straightforward. Now we'll go ahead and we'll show you this one, and that was actually on the one I placed. This is a support. Now all of these actions I'm going to be talking to you about now require you to move a unit that is in your base over into the mission spot, because you're sending them on this mission. So that is the support icon. That just allows you to draw a support card that you can then place into your hand. These two little hands shaking right here, that is a subterfuge action. Once again, it is a mission. When you do a subterfuge, you get to choose an opponent, and then you get to take one mercenary from their hand at random, and then you can either keep that card and give them one of your mercenary cards in exchange, or you can play one of the abilities on the card that you took. So like basically you co-opt the action that is on there. This is a bombard action. When you bombard a planet, basically all that happens, unless they have protection, you can gain defense tokens and things like that, but unless they have protection, you just destroy one of the troops that is on that particular planet. If there was only one dude on there, it would become uncontrolled at that point. So, you do have the ability to plan, bombard them from a distance. You don't have to move in and attack. Now, this is a recon action. This is not a mission. You don't have to use one up. When you do a recon, you can investigate the planets that are in a sector that is nearby that you have access to, and when you reveal those, you have the option of moving one of your units onto one of the planets that you just reconned, which usually is a pretty good idea, because gaining control of things is obviously important. And here we have the medic action, which is down there. Notice how this person has has a few different things, but the medic action allows you to heal up to all of the units that are in your medical bay and remove them and put them into your base. And I wanted to point out too, you notice how this action has a little slash, so this has some, you could do a subterfuge or an assassinate action with Sarmata, the green leaf, or leaf. So, I like that, some of the mercenaries have different options as far as those go. Alright, so you play your mercenary, you take the action. Now, if you had played, and this is the thing is that it takes a little bit of time to put the chain together, but let me just see if I can do it with the cards that I have. Basically, the second, if you manage to get a second unit on, and I'm going to kind of cheat here by putting this one green down, that one green down. Okay, so if you put that one down, and then you played this mercenary, and you put this, so it was your second guard for the connection, so you'd have two of the greens covered, you would be able to take the bonus action of that. You don't get it for just placing one, you have to match it again to get that bonus action. Just keep that in mind. And, that doesn't happen too often, but it is a really, really nice added bonus that if you actually get that going for you. Alright, so combat. I want to explain combat. Combat is really, really simple. You have these dice that either have a hit on them or they have a blank on them. And depending upon how many units you have in combat, you're just going to roll those dice. Now, you can have different factors that change it, but it's pretty straightforward. If you've played any kind of risk type game, the attacker rolls the dice, counts the hits. In this case, there's none. The defender rolls the dice, counts the hits. In this case, there's 2. So if blue invaded, the defender, yellow would destroy both of those and take care of them. Now, if blue had gotten, say, 1 hit on their attack, they would, still kill one of them. And then whoever is left maintains control. However, we did just brutalize a blue planet, so we're going to have to move the devastation marker down by 1 for doing so. So the cool thing there is that the attacker comes in and loses, but is ultimately still making that planet worthless for yellow to control at the end of the game. Also, when you attack, you automatically gain a reputation. You're a galactic overlord, and so that's impressive. You are bombarding and destroying planets. You gain reputation for doing so. If you succeed in your attack, you gain an extra reputation, so you'll gain a total of 2. But you still gain reputation just for having the audacity to attack another planet. Now, after you've taken all of your actions and you've resolved any combats that you might be involved in, you have a mercenary hire action. Let me just refill the pool there. After you've done that, well, I should say first you're going to move your units. So if your board looked like that, you're going to move them one step towards having them available in your base. Now, after that, however, you're going to have a mercenary hire action. So when you hire a mercenary, and I do apologize, like I said, I don't think you can see all of these mercenaries. There are 4 mercenaries available. You can either pick one that's available, put it in your hand, and then reveal the next one on the top of the deck, or you can take the one that's at the top of the deck, and then you're going to go ahead and get rid of all 4 that are available, and then replenish the 4 that are there. So it's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, I don't like any 4 of those. Well, maybe nobody likes any 4 of those. So that's a way that if you do take one off the top of the deck, you can go ahead and refresh it, and then possibly maybe even bury one that your opponent really wanted as well. So it has that added bonus as far as that goes. So after you're done with that, your turn is done, and you turn it over to the other player. And then they're going to take their turn with the exact same thing that you just did, and you're going to go back and forth in a 2-player game. This is the way it's set up. But a 3-player, obviously, but you get my drift. So each person is just going to take a turn until you trigger the end of the game, which is usually the reputation. But if you're not a really bloodthirsty crowd, you haven't been doing a lot of attacks, possibly reputation won't. Once you get rid of all the mercenary cards, though, and you've gotten through the end of the deck, you don't reshuffle those. So that will cause the end of the game to occur as well. Once you are done, you're going to total up your final score for the game. Obviously this is an area control game, so to have control over different planets is important. You're going to have all your mission objectives that you had, like any of these objective cards that you're going to have that give you bonus points as well. And then each mercenary mission, because the mercenaries technically have a card up here, have a thing that's considered a mercenary mission. Not all of them have them, but most of them do. So a mercenary mission gives you 2 power for each planet of the corresponding faction you control. So that's also a thing you have to take into account when you're hiring mercenaries. You might want to get the same mercenaries in a great deal of things. And you control planets by just basically having your units on them. Units of 2 different factions that are warring against each other cannot share the same planet. You will fight. You fight to the death during those combats. So it isn't a situation where you're going to have oh, I have 3 units, you have 1, I have control. No, you'll just have have all the control over there. So, however, the number of units on the planets will matter, depending on controlling of how much each bonus points the planets will be worth. So if let's just say, for example, let's say we had blue has those 2 red planets right there. Let me find another red planet, and of course I'm not going to be able to find one offhand, but well, here, that's perfect. I got a green. So let's go ahead and put 1 there and 1 there. So blue has 2 green planets, like so. But the end of the game comes, and yellow has 3 units on that green planet. Yellow is going to get the bonus points for the green planet devastation track because they have more units on the 1 planet they control. So you can see that gaining planets will be very, very helpful if you can match up the color of the planets with the mercenaries you have. But to gain the bonus points for the planets themselves, you have to have a lot of units on that particular planet. So, total final points. Whoever has the most power, or points as it's known, will be the greatest galactic overlord, and then will control the galaxy. I found Galactic Warlords to have a wonderful mix of a lot of different mechanisms that I like. It has basically a card-driven game where like the cards you have are dictating the actions that you have. I liked the fact that there was combat in it, but it wasn't super complex and didn't take a long time. So like if there wasn't a lot of downtime with those things. And plus I always like area control things. But let me talk more about all of that in my final thoughts, and I'll do that right now. Hey everyone, okay, thank you very much for sitting through that and learning how to play. I didn't go over every single little tiny rule. I do invite you to go ahead and download the rules and read those so you can kind of spec those out if you so desire. But I think I did give you a pretty decent overview of it. And I also, I'm going to just harken back to my last final words that I had about that in case you didn't read those or hear those, is that I do, I like these types of games. First of all, I like card-driven games. I do like the hand of cards, looking at your options, and then playing them. I like the fact that the cards have the different uses that they have, but also the fact that you aren't just playing it and throwing it away. You're playing it, and then it actually conjoins with other cards that you can put down. And the fact is, you want to keep those cards alive and in front of you, because if they are ditched, you're going to lose out on a lot of victory points at the end of the game. This is a game where, yes, you do kind of stockpile towards the end. You can gain some points as you play, doing different actions and having success. But you do get a nice chunk of points at the end if you can get those bonuses to match up for you. So, and that's something, it took me a couple of plays to realize that it was just I had to keep my eyes on the other players and seeing where they were going. And so that's where the whole open information is really good, because you can look over there, you can see somebody is just hammering away with yellow mercenaries, right? Well, you need to get those yellow planets and get them away from them. You can't let them control them. So that means you need to go there, or at the very least, you need to, if they're going to control it, at least devastate those planets, right? Chip away at their point totals. At the same time, though, while you're doing that, you're trying to make sure that's yours as well. But also remember, each time you attack, you're going up on the reputation track. So as you go up on the reputation track, you're pushing yourself towards the end of the game. And if you aren't able to get a foothold on what you need to score points and basically, defeat your opponents, you have that problem. So it's I need to do this to win, but if I do this but don't do it well enough, then I'm not going to win. So it has this wonderful, problem, that is tough to discern. And, the fact is that it could have been a very deterministic game. It could have been just okay, I have 2, attack power, you have 3, I lose. But because of the fact that you have some dice and you have some extra abilities with the support cards you can use, and reinforcements and what have you, I like that, the combat isn't just, this is who's going to win, this is who's going to lose. You are going to have a situation where if you just need to get lucky, you might just get lucky as far as the dice rolls go. So it combined all kinds of things that I really like as far as mechanisms, and then put a really, really nice theme on it, and really, really awesome art too, as far as just controlling planets. I mean, it's just that space opera thing, and it's very enjoyable to play games like this. So if you like that kind of hodgepodge of things, you're card-driven actions, area control, different not player powers, so to speak, but different powers of the troops that you have, to enact and use and what have you, then I strongly suggest you check out Galactic Warlords. I did, and it is a lot of fun. So there you go. If you have any questions about the game, please ask. I'd be happy to answer those as best as I can. Thank you very much for your time today, and as always, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.